I never imagined that a simple phone call could feel like the end of everything. But when the words came through the receiver, they hit me like a slap to the face. It was Anna, my son's wife, and there was an edge in her voice that I had never heard before. She was calm, but that calmness made it worse. She wasn't angry, she wasn't even upset. No, it was worse than that. It was cold, dismissive, almost like she had been planning this for a long time. "I think you've done enough," she said. "You don't fit our image anymore. We're moving forward without you. Please don't come by again." I stood frozen in my own living room, the phone in my hand feeling heavier than I'd ever known it to be. The words repeated over and over in my head, "You don't fit our image." How could she say that? After everything I had done for them? The years of giving, without asking for anything in return, came crashing down with those 4 words. I had been there for them, for both of them, since the beginning. I'd helped them when they had nothing, paid their rent when they were behind, bought their furniture when they couldn't afford it. Every time they asked, I gave. But I was just a convenience to them, someone who could be counted on when things were hard, but when they had everything, I became invisible. I felt a wave of confusion and betrayal wash over me as I realized this wasn't just a moment of hurt. This was a moment that would change everything. I was stunned. Heartbroken. But mostly, I was alone. For the first time in years, I felt the weight of the distance between us. They didn't want me in their lives anymore. All the sacrifices I had made, the emotional labor, the endless financial support, none of it mattered. I wasn't special enough for them to care about. I couldn't help but wonder, what was I to them all this time? Was I just a walking ATM, someone who could be counted on for money and favors, but never for love or affection? Was I just a tool they could discard once they were done with me? That night, I sat in my bedroom, staring at the closet where I had carefully picked out a dress for my son's wedding. A wedding I wouldn't be a part of. The dress hung there, useless and empty. So was I. And all I could think about was that one phrase, echoing in my mind, "You don't fit our image anymore." Do you ever feel unappreciated by the people you care about the most? Let me know in the comments below if you've experienced something similar. I'd love to hear your stories. The days that followed that phone call felt like I was walking through a fog. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Anna's face, cold, dismissive, like I was nothing more than a minor inconvenience to her. Those words, "You don't fit our image anymore," kept ringing in my ears, a constant reminder that I had no place in their lives. I couldn't stop replaying the moment in my head. I tried to distract myself, watch TV, read a book, even clean the house. But nothing worked. It was like her words had taken root inside me, slowly poisoning everything else. There was a heaviness I couldn't shake. Every little thing reminded me of what I had lost. I'd always been there for them. Always. I thought about the years I had spent giving, supporting, being the one they could rely on. I had helped them in ways I never imagined I would help anyone. I could see the countless times I'd handed over money for their rent when they were behind. I had wiped away their tears when things were tough. When they had nothing, I was there, doing everything I could to make sure they had something to hold on to. Anna had been struggling with a job she hated, and I knew how much it weighed on her. So, when she asked me for help buying new clothes for an interview, I didn't think twice. I took her shopping, paid for the clothes, even bought her shoes for the occasion. I remember telling her that she deserved it, that she could do anything she set her mind to. She smiled at me then, but now, looking back, I wondered if she ever really appreciated it, or if it was just another way to get what she needed. And my son, Max. How many times had I picked him up when he fell? How many late-night phone calls had I answered, only to listen to him vent about his job, his relationship, his life, without ever hearing a word of thanks? When he got into debt because of his reckless spending, I was there, taking money out of my own savings to pay it off. I had never hesitated. I was just mom, after all. It was my job to take care of him, right? But that's the thing. I was always mom to them. I was the one who gave and gave. I was the one who sacrificed, who did everything to make sure they had what they needed, even when it meant I went without. And now, after all these years of bending over backward for them, after all the money and time I'd poured into their lives, they didn't even have the decency to invite me to their wedding. The pain of betrayal cut deeper than anything else. I wasn't angry, no, that would have been easier. What hurt more was that I felt invisible. I wasn't a mother anymore. I wasn't even family. I was just a resource. I spent hours sitting in my living room, thinking about everything. I thought about the house I had helped them buy. How I had sacrificed my own future, my own retirement, to give them a start. I had contributed financially to every single step of their lives together, whether they asked or not. I'd helped Anna with her wedding dress, paying for part of it when she couldn't afford it. And all of it, all of my support, everything I did for them, suddenly meant nothing. I had given so much of myself, my time, my money, my love, and yet I was being discarded. It felt as if all those years, all that effort, had been for nothing. I had been a fool to think they ever truly cared about me, to think I was a part of their lives beyond what I could offer them. I needed to talk to someone, to make sense of all these feelings swirling inside me. So, I called my best friend, Julia. She had been a constant in my life for years, someone who had always been there when I needed advice, when I needed support. When she picked up the phone, I could hear the concern in her voice. "What's wrong, Renate?" she asked softly. I didn't know where to begin. It all came pouring out, the phone call, the betrayal, the realization that I had been taken advantage of for so long. Julia listened quietly, not interrupting, just letting me spill out all my hurt and frustration. I told her about the house, the money, the wedding I wasn't a part of. And then, I said the words that had been on my mind. "I don't know what I've been doing all these years, Julia. I've given everything for them, and they don't even care. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know if I was ever really appreciated." There was a long pause before Julia spoke. "Renate, I know it hurts, but you've got to see this for what it is. They've been using you, and you've let them. But you've allowed this to happen. I don't mean that to hurt you, but you've given so much of yourself, you've forgotten who you are. You've been more of a mother to them than they ever deserved." Her words hit me hard, but in a way, they felt like a lifeline. I'd been so focused on giving, on helping, on making sure they were okay, that I'd lost sight of myself. I'd become nothing more than a vessel for their needs, a tool they could use to smooth over their lives. They weren't the ones who needed help anymore. It was me. It had always been me, but I had refused to see it. Julia continued, "Renate, it's time for you to stop. Stop giving them your money, your time, your energy. You've been running on empty for so long, and now you have to fill yourself back up. You have to stop letting them take from you." I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear those words until they were out in the open. It was time to stop. Time to stop being the person they called on when they were in trouble. Time to stop sacrificing my own future to secure theirs. A spark of something began to stir inside me. It was small at first, Just a flicker of rebellion, but it was there. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how much power I had given away, how much of myself I had sold for their happiness. What about my happiness? What about my life? For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: independence. The realization that I didn't have to be the one to fix everything for them. I didn't have to be the one to always save the day. It was a small step, but it was a step toward taking back control of my life. I woke up the next morning, still wrapped in the heavy weight of the night before. The pain of Anna's words lingered in my chest, but something else was growing inside me, a seed of defiance, a realization that I could no longer live this way. For too long, I had been the silent provider, the one who gave without question, without recognition. I had bent over backwards for my son and daughter-in-law, hoping that one day they would see me for who I truly was, but that hope was gone now. The truth was, they never saw me as anything other than a tool to be used. I couldn't go on like this anymore. I needed to take control. Not just of my money, but of my life. And it started with a simple, undeniable truth: I didn't need to be at their mercy anymore. I was capable of standing on my own 2 feet. I had always been strong, but somewhere along the way, I had allowed myself to be weak. I had let them dictate my worth, and that had to stop now. I walked into my office, my hands shaking slightly as I pulled open the drawer where I kept my checkbook and bank statements. I hadn't looked at my savings in weeks, not since everything had gone downhill with Max and Anna. I was too afraid of what I might find, too afraid to face the reality of how much I had been giving them. But now, I needed to know. I needed to see it all laid out in front of me, all the money I had poured into their lives for the last few years. I took a deep breath as I sat down, opening the first envelope. The numbers hit me hard, sharper than I expected. Rent payments, car loans, medical bills, gifts, furniture, and countless other expenses. The total was staggering. My heart sank as I realized how much I had spent, money I had taken from my retirement savings, money I had scraped together, believing that I was helping them build a future. But what was I left with? A sense of betrayal, and a life drained of all the resources I should have been saving for my own peace. Over the last 3 years, I had spent nearly $40,000 on them. $40,000. And for what? To be told I didn't fit their image? To be excluded from their wedding, a day I had spent months preparing for, hoping to see my son start his new life? I couldn't believe how blind I had been. But now, I saw the truth. I saw the line that I had crossed, the line where I had stopped living for myself and started living for them. I had convinced myself that my love for them was enough, that my sacrifices would make a difference. But it hadn't. This was it. I was done. I closed my eyes for a moment and thought about the choices I had made. I had enabled them. I had allowed them to become so reliant on me that they had stopped seeing me as a person. I had become just a bank account to them, someone to be used when they needed something and discarded when they didn't. I wasn't angry anymore, though. The anger had faded into something more powerful: determination. I wasn't going to let them take any more from me. I wasn't going to let them dictate the terms of my life. It was time to stop. Time to stop paying their rent, time to stop covering their bills, time to stop being the safety net they always relied on without a second thought. With trembling hands, I picked up the phone and called my bank. I needed to make sure all the automatic transfers I had set up for Max and Anna were canceled. The woman on the other end of the line was polite but didn't seem to understand why I was making such a drastic decision. She asked if I was sure I wanted to stop the payments. Yes, I said firmly, surprised at the strength in my voice. I'm sure. As I hung up, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It was as if I had just taken the first step toward reclaiming my life. For the first time in years, I wasn't doing something for them. I was doing something for me. But that was only the beginning. It wasn't just about stopping the financial support. I needed to do more than that. I needed to show myself, that I wasn't going to stand by while they treated me like a resource. I started making a list of everything they had taken from me. All the sacrifices, all the emotional labor, all the money. The total wasn't just a number on a bank statement, it was the cost of my freedom, my dignity, my years of giving without receiving anything in return. And it wasn't just the money, it was the years of guilt I had carried, the pressure I had felt to constantly prove my worth through my generosity. I wasn't just angry at them. I was angry at myself, for letting it go on for so long. But that anger was turning into action. I wasn't going to let them drain me anymore. It was time to take my power back. The next day, I woke up early and went to the bank to change my account details. I needed to protect my finances, to make sure no one could take advantage of me again. The teller looked at me like I was overreacting when I asked to change all my account information, but I didn't care. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't trust them anymore. After leaving the bank, I drove to the hardware store. I knew it wasn't enough to just cancel the payments, I needed to ensure that I was safe from any further intrusion into my life. I bought new locks for my doors, a security system, and even set up a camera system to monitor my home. It was a small, but significant, act of reclaiming control. As I walked back to my car, I couldn't help but feel a sense of power rising in me. I had taken the first steps toward a new life. A life where I was in control, where my needs and wants mattered. I wasn't going to be a victim anymore. I was going to be my own person. That evening, I sat down at the kitchen table, a cup of tea in my hand, and for the first time in years, I didn't think about Max or Anna. I didn't think about what they might need, what they might ask from me next. I thought about myself. I thought about what I wanted out of the rest of my life. I had a long way to go, but I knew one thing for sure, I was no longer going to be their backup plan. I wasn't going to live my life for them anymore. From now on, I was living for me. The days after my decision to stop supporting Max and Anna felt like an immense weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I had taken control of my life, and though it was still difficult at times, there was a sense of relief I hadn't felt in years. For the first time, I wasn't jumping at every call from them, thinking about what they needed from me. I was beginning to feel like me again. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened a week later. I had just finished my morning tea when the phone rang, its shrill sound cutting through the quiet stillness of the house. I glanced at the screen and saw that it was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer it, but something in my gut told me that I should. Maybe it was the fact that I hadn't heard from Max or Anna in a few days, and I couldn't help but wonder if they had finally realized what I had done, if they were angry, or if they were going to ask me for more money. Hello? I answered, trying to sound neutral. Hello, is this Mrs. Renate Richter? The voice on the other end was unfamiliar but polite. Yes, this is Renate, I said, holding my breath, unsure of what to expect. This is David Thomas, I'm calling from Ridgeview Properties, the voice continued. I'm sorry to inform you, but your son and daughter-in-law, Max and Anna Richter, have fallen behind on their rent. Their payment has been overdue for over 2 months now, and we've been trying to contact them, but we haven't received any response. Unfortunately, unless the situation is rectified within the next week, We will have no choice but to begin eviction proceedings. I blinked in disbelief. Max and Anna were behind on their rent? Again? They had always struggled with their finances, but I had no idea it had gotten this bad. But it wasn't the overdue rent that caught my attention. It was the fact that this was their house, the one I had helped them buy years ago. The very house I had given so much to support. The house that had become a symbol of everything I had sacrificed for them. The house where I had dreamed of seeing my son's future unfold, where I had imagined being welcomed into their lives as they built their family. But now, they were losing it. And I knew that this was my moment. It was the opening I had been waiting for, the chance to reclaim not just my independence, but my dignity. David continued, I just wanted to give you a heads up in case you wanted to intervene. We're in the process of preparing the necessary paperwork for the eviction, but I wanted to reach out to you personally first. If you're in a position to help, we can try to work out a solution. I couldn't hold back a bitter laugh. I had helped them too much already. They hadn't appreciated it then, and I wasn't about to throw them another lifeline. No, I replied, my voice steady, I'm afraid I can't help them with this. But if you could hold on for a moment, I'd like to explore a solution of my own. David seemed surprised but agreed. Of course, Mrs. Richter. I'll hold. I put the phone on speaker and walked to the kitchen, my mind racing. The words, if you're in a position to help, echoed in my mind. The truth was, I was in a position to help, in a way they would never expect. I had been saving up for my retirement, putting money aside for years to ensure that I could live comfortably when I was older. After the devastation of losing my husband, I had learned the value of independence, of having something to fall back on. And now, that savings could give me something far more valuable than comfort in my old age. It could give me power. A thought hit me, sharp and sudden, what if I didn't just watch them lose the house? What if I took this opportunity to buy it myself? The idea felt almost surreal at first. Could I really do it? The house was worth a lot of money, but I had enough saved to make an offer. I had the resources to do this. I could buy the house and become their landlord. The thought of becoming their landlord sent a wave of satisfaction through me. Not only would I finally have control over something they had once taken from me, but it would be an act of empowerment, a way to show them that I wasn't some weak, passive mother they could push around. I wasn't just a bank to be drained. I was Renate Richter, and I was taking back my life. I grabbed my phone again and called the realtor listed with Ridgeview Properties. My hands were shaking slightly, but I tried to keep my voice steady. Hi, this is Renate Richter. I'd like to inquire about buying the house on Ridgeview Lane that my son and daughter-in-law currently live in. Can you tell me if it's available for purchase? The realtor responded quickly, confirming that, indeed, the property was available and that they had already initiated the process of foreclosure. I wasted no time. I made an offer on the house, one that was fair, but not generous. It was an offer that would secure the property for me, and it was one I knew would catch the attention of the bank. The satisfaction I felt as I signed the papers was beyond words. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control. When I called David back to inform him of my decision, there was a moment of silence on the other end. He seemed surprised, but then he agreed to the terms, giving me the opportunity to finalize the sale. With the deal in motion, I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of empowerment. I had taken something that was once theirs and made it mine. I had done it without their knowledge, without their permission, and without a second thought. It was mine now, and I would do with it as I pleased. The thought of becoming their landlord, watching them realize what I had done, made my heart race with excitement. I didn't need to feel small anymore. I didn't need to ask for their love or their approval. I had power now, and that power was something they could never take away from me. That night, I lay in bed, my mind still buzzing with the events of the day. It felt like everything had shifted. For years, I had been at their mercy, watching as they took from me without ever giving back. But now, I was the one holding the cards. They didn't know it yet, but soon they would. And when they did, they would learn what it meant to lose the one person who had always been there for them. Tomorrow would be a new day. Tomorrow, I would become their landlord. And I couldn't wait to see their faces when they realized how the tables had turned. I had made up my mind. There was no turning back now. The deal on the house had been finalized, and I was now its official owner. But I wasn't going to just sit back and let this be an unspoken shift in power. No, I needed them to know. I needed Anna to know that the tables had turned, and it was time to confront the lies, the manipulation, and the false sense of entitlement that she had worn like a mask for so long. I arranged a meeting with Anna, carefully choosing the time and place. I wanted it to be in person, face to face, where she couldn't hide behind the phone or text messages. I needed to see her reaction when she learned what I had done. When she arrived, she looked exactly like she always did, put together, confident, and pretending to be the woman in control. But I could see the tension in her posture, the slight twitch in her eye. She had no idea what was coming. We sat down in my living room, the same one I had helped furnish for them, the same one they had always treated as theirs. But now, I was the one in control, and I could feel the shift in the air between us. She tried to be casual, but I could see the unease in her eyes. "So, what's going on?" she asked, leaning back slightly, her arms folded. "You've been acting so weird lately. I'm worried about you. Is everything okay?" I almost laughed at how fake she sounded. After everything, now she was worried about me? It took everything I had not to call her out for the manipulation, but I stayed calm. I had something much more powerful in my hands now. "I'm fine, Anna," I said, my voice steady. "In fact, I'm better than fine. There's something I need to tell you." Her expression shifted from concern to curiosity, and then, I saw it, the flicker of fear. I wasn't sure if she realized what was coming, but I could see that she wasn't prepared for the words I was about to say. "I've bought the house you and Max are living in," I said calmly, watching as her face fell. "It's mine now. And starting next month, the rent will be going up." Her face went pale, and for a moment, she was speechless. I could see her brain working overtime, trying to process what I had just told her. Her mouth opened as if to speak, but no words came out. "You bought it," she repeated, her voice laced with disbelief. "Yes," I confirmed, my tone unwavering. "You and Max have been falling behind on your rent. You've been struggling with finances for months now, and instead of continuing to bail you out, I decided to make an investment. You'll be paying rent to me from now on." I paused for a moment, letting the weight of my words sink in. Anna was trying to compose herself, but I could see her hands trembling slightly. She was not used to losing control, and I could feel the desperation start to creep in. Her face flushed, and she leaned forward, her voice rising as she tried to regain her footing. "You can't be serious, Renate. You're doing this to your own son and daughter-in-law? After everything we've been through? After all the help you've given us?" I held up my hand, signaling for her to stop. "Let me finish, Anna. I've helped you and Max for years. I've supported you emotionally, financially, in ways no one else would. But the truth is, I'm tired of being taken advantage of. I'm tired of being treated like a bank account, a safety net. You've treated me like a resource for too long, and I'm done. She stared at me, her mouth slightly agape. But we need this house, Renate. Max and we can't afford to live anywhere else. You know that. This is our home. We're not asking for much. Exactly, I said, cutting her off. You've never asked for much, have you? You've demanded everything without ever giving anything back. And now, you're telling me you can't afford the rent? Well, now you'll have to figure it out just like everyone else. Anna looked like she had been slapped. Her eyes narrowed, and I could see the gears turning in her head. She wasn't used to being told no, especially not by me. Renate, this isn't fair, she said, her voice shaking with frustration. You can't just do this. We're family. You can't throw us out like this. You're the only one we've had to depend on. How can you just cut us off? I stayed calm, refusing to let her guilt trip me into giving in. I'm not cutting you off, Anna. You'll still have a place to live. You'll just have to pay the rent, like anyone else. I'm no longer your financial savior. I'm reclaiming my life, and that means I don't have to sacrifice everything for you anymore. I watched her face twist in disbelief and anger as she realized the gravity of the situation. But I wasn't done yet. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. You know, I've spent years helping you, buying your groceries, paying your rent, taking care of your bills, I continued, my voice firm but measured. But when you and Max excluded me from your wedding, when you told me I didn't fit your image anymore, that was the last straw. You don't get to treat me like this and expect me to keep bailing you out. Her eyes darted around the room, clearly searching for some way to regain control of the conversation. She opened her mouth to speak, but I raised my hand again, stopping her. You'll need to figure out how to make this work, Anna. This house, this rent, it's no longer my responsibility to fix. If you want to stay, you'll need to pay like everyone else. But understand this, I'm not doing this out of spite. I'm doing this because it's time for me to live my own life, without being used. She looked at me, her face flushed with a mix of anger and desperation. Renate, please, I'm sorry. We were under a lot of stress, and I didn't mean what I said. We really need your help. We're struggling, and I can't do this without you. Her voice trembled, but I wasn't moved. I had heard this all before, the manipulation, the fake remorse. I had fallen for it too many times, but not this time. This time, I was standing firm. No, Anna, I said, my voice steady, I'm not your backup anymore. I've been your ATM for years, and I'm done. If you want to continue living in this house, you'll need to pay the rent just like everyone else. You're no longer special to me just because you need something. She stammered, but we're family. Family doesn't treat each other like this, I replied. You don't get to treat me like a cash machine and then act surprised when I say no. I'm not just family to you when it's convenient. I'm a person, Anna. A person with feelings and boundaries. The silence that followed was thick and uncomfortable. Anna's eyes flashed with frustration, and for a moment, I thought she might lash out. But she didn't. Instead, she stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. You'll regret this, she said, her voice low and cold. You'll see. This isn't over. I stayed seated, my gaze unwavering. We'll see, Anna. But it's over for me. You've pushed me to my limit. Now, you're going to have to figure this out on your own. Have you ever had to stand your ground when someone tried to manipulate you? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story inspires you, hit that like button and subscribe for more. The phone rang the next morning, a call from an unknown number, but this time I didn't hesitate to pick up. I knew exactly who it was before I even heard his voice. Mom, what the hell is going on? Max's voice was full of fury, but there was a hint of desperation beneath the anger. Why would you do this to us? Why would you take the house from us? We've always been there for you, and now this? You're trying to ruin our family. I didn't flinch. I had prepared myself for this moment. I knew he would come at me with everything he had, trying to make me feel guilty, trying to pull on the old strings of his family loyalty that I had been so weak to for years. But not anymore. I was different now. I wasn't the same woman he had walked all over. Max, I said, keeping my voice calm, I'm not trying to ruin your family. I'm finally standing up for myself. You've been taking from me for years, and I've allowed it because I thought I was doing the right thing. But I've had enough. You've treated me like a financial resource, and I won't be your ATM anymore. I could hear his breathing grow heavy on the other end of the line. You're being unreasonable, Mom. This isn't just about the house. You've destroyed everything we've worked for. How could you do this to your own son? After everything we've done, after everything we've been through together? His words, those familiar manipulative phrases, were meant to break me, to make me second-guess myself. But as he spoke, I felt something rise in me that I hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of relief. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of his anger. I wasn't afraid of his threats. I wasn't afraid of being the bad guy anymore. The truth hit me like a ton of bricks. He had never really seen me as his mother. Not the way I had always wanted him to. To Max, I wasn't a person. I was a source of financial security, a backup plan when things didn't go his way. And that realization broke my heart, but also set me free. You're right about one thing, I said, my voice quieter now. You've always depended on me, Max. But the truth is, you've never once considered me. You've never cared about what I needed, what I wanted. You've only cared about what you could get from me. There was silence on the other end, and I could practically hear the gears turning in his head, trying to process what I had just said. He wasn't used to hearing it, wasn't used to the fact that I wasn't going to bend to his will anymore. It was a new feeling for both of us. Max broke the silence with a sharp breath. You're being ridiculous, Mom. You owe us. You've always owed us. You've always been there to bail us out when we needed it, so why stop now? You're abandoning your family. We're family. His voice cracked slightly as he said the last part. It was as if he had suddenly realized the true nature of his words. He had no more room to hide behind his manipulation. His cries of family rang hollow, just another attempt to make me feel like I was betraying him. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. The moment when I would stop letting him use me. When I would stop letting him think he had the right to demand everything from me, to treat me like I was nothing but a means to an end. No, Max, I said softly, but firmly, I don't owe you anymore. I've done everything for you, and I've done everything for Anna, but now I'm doing something for myself. I'm finally standing up for the woman I've let myself become, the woman who deserves respect, not just your constant demands. Max's response was a mix of anger and disbelief. You're not going to get away with this, Mom. You can't just cut us off like this. We have rights. We'll sue you if we have to. You can't just take everything from us and think we'll let it go. The word of sue stung, but I didn't let it show. I had spent too many years fearing his threats, fearing the consequences of saying no. But now, all I felt was confidence. Clarity. I had drawn my line in the sand, and I wasn't about to let anyone cross it. Not him, not Anna. Not anyone. You can sue me all you want, Max, I said, my voice steady, but it won't change the fact that I'm done being your fallback plan. I'm done being the one you rely on when things go wrong. You're an adult now. It's time for you to stand on your own 2 feet. You think you're going to get away with this? You think I'm just going to let you walk all over me? His voice was growing more desperate, and I could hear the panic creeping in. Max, I interrupted, my patience wearing thin, the only thing I'm walking away from is you. And Anna. I've already given you more than enough. And now, I'm taking back what's mine, my peace, my life, my future. His voice softened for a moment, almost as if he were trying a different tactic. Mom, please. Don't you see? We've been through so much together. We've been a family. Don't you remember all the good times? You're going to lose us. We need you. I felt a surge of bitterness flood through me. The words were hollow now. They no longer had the power to manipulate me. I remember, Max. I remember all the times I bailed you out, all the times I kept pretending that everything was fine, that you actually cared. But I see through it now. You're not sorry. You're sorry that you've lost your money. You've never asked how I was doing. You've only cared about how you were doing. I let the silence hang in the air for a moment, letting him stew in the truth of what I had just said. Finally, he spoke again, his voice quiet, almost pleading. Mom, I don't know what to do. You're not the woman I thought you were. You've changed. Yes, I have, I said, a sharp edge creeping into my voice. And for the better. The woman you knew was one who would sacrifice everything for you. The woman you're talking to now is one who's taking back control of her life. You've never respected me. You've never seen me as anything but a resource. But I'm not that woman anymore. The days that followed the confrontation with Max and Anna were unlike anything I had experienced before. It was as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, one I hadn't even realized was there until it was gone. For so long, I had carried the burden of their expectations, their demands, and their manipulation. But now, I could finally breathe. The constant pressure to give, to sacrifice, to be the one who always came through for them was gone. And in its place was a sense of freedom, freedom that felt as exhilarating as it was terrifying. For the first time in years, I didn't have to answer to anyone. I didn't have to ask myself, what will Max or Anna need from me next? The answer was simple now, nothing. They could no longer control me. They could no longer use my love and my money as a way to manipulate me into doing their bidding. I took a moment to reflect on what had brought me to this point, how I had spent years giving everything to people who didn't see me as a person, but as a tool to get what they wanted. I had been a mother, yes, but I had also been something more. I had been a financial resource, a backup plan, and someone who they could count on when things got tough. But I wasn't that anymore. I had reclaimed my dignity. I felt a rush of emotion. It wasn't anger anymore, it wasn't even resentment. What I felt was peace. I had finally learned to stand up for myself, and the reward for that wasn't just the relief of saying no. It was the profound satisfaction of knowing that I could live my life on my own terms. I had always put everyone else's needs ahead of mine. But now, I was finally doing something for me. I started small, things I had always dreamed of doing but never had the time for. I had always wanted to travel, to see the world beyond the small circle I had been confined to for so many years. I booked a ticket to Italy, a place I had always fantasized about visiting. I didn't need anyone's permission. I didn't need to justify it. I just did it for myself, and the feeling was liberating. As I walked through the cobblestone streets of Rome, taking in the sights and sounds, I realized how far I had come. I was no longer bound by the expectations of others. I was free to live my life the way I wanted, without apology. When I returned home, I threw myself into new hobbies, things I had put off for too long. I joined a painting class, something I had always wanted to try but never had the time for. I began gardening in my backyard, something simple and peaceful that allowed me to connect with nature in a way I never had before. And as I explored these new passions, I also found myself meeting new people, people who didn't want anything from me except for genuine connection. I made new friends who appreciated me for who I was, not for what I could give them. I began to surround myself with individuals who lifted me up, who encouraged me to be my best self, rather than pulling me down with their needs and expectations. With each passing day, I felt more and more like the woman I had always wanted to be. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. But as much as I had grown and changed, there were still moments when the past would come rushing back, the guilt of saying no, the fear of being alone, the worry that I had made the wrong choice by cutting Max and Anna off. But those moments became fewer and farther between. Every time I felt that old doubt creeping in, I reminded myself of what I had learned. I had the right to say no. I had the right to protect myself, my finances, and my well-being. And anyone who truly loved me would understand that. As I sat in my living room, watching the sun set over the horizon, I thought about how much I had changed. It wasn't just about the financial freedom, the house, or even the trips I had taken. It was about the internal shift that had happened, something far more important than anything I had gained materialistically. I had regained control of my life. Looking back, I could see the mistakes I had made, the times when I had put others' needs above my own, the times I had let myself be manipulated, the times I had let Max and Anna take advantage of me. But I didn't regret them. They were part of my journey, and without them, I wouldn't have learned how strong I could be. But I promised myself that I would never again let anyone make me feel less than worthy. I would never again let anyone use my love and generosity against me. And as I embraced this new chapter of my life, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the strength I had found in myself. Gratitude for the lessons learned. And gratitude for the freedom I had earned. Sometimes the hardest part is standing up for yourself. If you've ever had to make a tough choice like this, I want to hear your story. Drop a comment, like this video, and subscribe for more stories of empowerment and personal growth.